What's up, everyone? Carter here, and this is going to be my official announcement of me quitting, stopping, retiring my traditional online arbitrage business. In this video, I want to break down three things. First off, what led me to deciding to basically stopping and retiring my traditional online arbitrage business. Two, the Amazon business model that I have already pivoted to and why I made that transition. And then three, what you can expect to see from me going forward on social media. So let's get right into it. Starting with why I've officially decided to shut down my traditional online arbitrage Amazon business. And so this year, my team and I experienced a lot of issues. And, specifically with my traditional online arbitrage business, there were a few issues that I'll go into in just a second that we were experiencing. And to just be honest and summarize, the risk to reward ratio was just not at my liking. These issues were decreasing our margin. We weren't making the kind of money that I think we know we could make or that we had made in the past. And maybe some of you listening to this right now that maybe do some variation of online arbitrage or just selling on Amazon are experiencing. And I just want to do my best to be as honest as I can breaking it down. So I actually have a small list here on my screen so I can make sure that I touch on each of the main topics. But in terms of issues, there were a couple big ones that just led to not only just frustration, but us just not making the kind of margin and the money that we were looking to make. And so first off is the, recent random brand restrictions. And so for us online arbitrage sellers, we're front loading a lot of our effort, a lot of our time, and my virtual assistant's time, learning how to source and master, specific brands or maybe specific retailers. And then almost overnight having to pivot. And this just makes it, huge inconvenience. And then also just not having control over when these brand restrictions are going to take place is also a little frustrating as well. Next up is just the extreme difficulty of the current ungating process on Amazon. Don't get me wrong, I'm totally cool with brands being gated and then, you providing sellers the opportunity to provide the correct documentation, invoices to be able to get approved to sell the brand. But at the same time, I'm doing everything right. I'm buying from legitimate retailer. I have the exact amount of units they need purchased, and I'm still getting denied and denied over and over. It just makes the ungating process, sometimes a waste of time and also frustrating as well. And then limiting my team and I back from being able to enter new brands to sell. Number three is damage returns. Now, of course, there's always going to be returns in a physical product business, but still at scale, this can really eat at the margin and eat at our margin as well. Think about let's say a high-end $50 makeup kit, that comes back used or damaged. I'm taking an entire loss. I can't just list, a used makeup kit on eBay. Returns is actually, with my new model, I'll get into why that's not so much an issue going forward, but still, especially at scale, having to take 100% losses, or even if you get, let's say, a used pair of shoes returned back to me, I don't want to go through the process of having to list it on eBay. If I send it to a consignment company, they're going to take a cut. It's just kind of a headache in that process as well. Then two of my final ones here is, and I'm not sure if I was just the unlucky duck here, but just listings getting deleted overnight. Me having hundreds to maybe thousands of dollars in a specific ASIN, and then the listing just gets wiped off the face of the earth. It's not on Amazon anymore. And sometimes those listings do come back, or maybe there's a secondary listing you can list it under. But when there's not, it's just a huge headache. A lot of the times, it's not moving as fast on eBay or Walmart. You're also not going to get the same kind of price you can get on Amazon compared to Walmart and eBay. Most of the time, if you can, it's probably selling super slow. Just another huge inconvenience. And I don't want to be an eBay or a Walmart seller really going forward. Then the fifth and final one is just me and my virtual assistant sourcing team just experienced difficulty sourcing. It became, it's hard to find good brands to sell. It was hard to find new brands to pursue because of the difficulty ungating process. And we were just having a difficult time achieving quality spend and then doing it at scale. Now, even with this all going on, over the last 2 to 3 years, we've consistently been hitting, I would say, anywhere from $50,000 to $65,000 revenue months. I work less than an hour per day on the business. My virtual assistant team mainly manages it all. And that led me to basically this last May until I attended the Miami Sellers Conference. And then this is going to drag me into my next talking point here, which is the new Amazon business model that I've already pivoted to, and that probably some of you are curious what I'll be doing going forward. So let's get into it. And to summarize it, I'm doing Amazon to Amazon used book online arbitrage. Crazy, I know, right? So in simple terms, I'm basically buying cheap used books on Amazon to sell back on Amazon. And so you're probably wondering, Carter, how did you even stumble upon this business? I know everyone kind of starts out selling books, whether it's going to thrift stores or library sales. It's a great model, but eventually you graduate and go to a model that can have a little bit more scalability. And so early this year, I attended the Miami Sellers Conference and I had a conversation that potentially changed my life. And so I want to break down the story. And so I've gone to the Miami Sellers Conference like the last 4 years. I love it. To summarize it, basically, conference ends one day. We walk down the street to some steakhouse, couple attendees, couple speakers. I sit at the end of this table, and two gentlemen I never spoke to in my life by the name of Victor and Joji. I'll talk about them more on my page later. But they just were nice enough to tell me and give me the insights of their own Amazon online arbitrage used book selling business. And this was a model that, I hadn't really heard of before, maybe once or twice in my 10-year career. Didn't know much about it, and they were nice enough to tell me about it. They actually had created their own software called BookMine that kind of helps you find these opportunities to buy low, sell high, specifically for books. And then also at that time, I was going through some issues. I was going through some struggles in my own traditional online arbitrage business. And so I decided to go ahead and give it a shot. Since the day one that I bought a used book to sell back on Amazon, 3 months later, I have 4 virtual assistants helping me run my Amazon business. I had fully transitioned 2 of them to now source online arbitrage used books. And then the other 2 were also staying on the traditional online arbitrage operation. And then I basically ran it that way for another 3 months, another 90 days, did another evaluation. And my gut, and it wasn't even a gut feeling, the numbers made sense. I was making more money. There was more opportunity with the used book business. And so I've now, I think roughly 60 days ago, 2 months ago, I fully have transitioned my entire team of 4 virtual assistants that once did traditional online arbitrage for me to 100% buying used books to sell back on Amazon. And so I won't get into too much depth in this specific video on the used book selling business model, but there's a couple pros and obviously there's some cons as well. I'm going to quickly describe both of them here so you kind of have an understanding. But obviously my favorite parts and just pros about the business is obviously I'm making more money. I'm having a significantly higher ROI. My margin is higher than my traditional online arbitrage business has ever been. And that is what has led me to making this video and making that transition. And so, for example, in the month of October, we're still building our inventory pool, but we sold $24,000 in revenue in the month of October. And I had a 68% ROI on average. That did not happen in my traditional online arbitrage business. And of course, there's also, I call it like, I wouldn't say an infinite money glitch, but what happens when you get a used book return? You just list it and sell it again. And so just like I said with the traditional online arbitrage operation, I was having issues with returns and having to take 100% losses. Now, we get, I think our return rate is just below around 5 or 6%. And then pretty much 90% of those books that were returned, we're able to just list and sell again. Obviously, if the book gets returned and is ripped in half, we can't sell it, but that's just a teeny tiny portion. And so there's almost kind of a built-in infinite money glitch there, which I am very much a fan of. Also, price tanking is really non-existent because with the used book online arbitrage operation, it's not like a retail website where there's hundreds to thousands of units available. It's like you're getting on a specific ASIN and there's 12 sellers on the listing and there's 2 copies that are at a profitable buy cost. And you buy them for $15 and then it immediately hops up to next lowest price, which is 30. A lot of my buys, like I'm not buying 10, 20, 50, 100 units like I typically would in my traditional online arbitrage operation. It's a bunch of 1 or 2 copies here, 5 here, 1 here, but the margin is absolutely insane. And then obviously I'm leveraging overseas virtual assistants to be able to do this at scale. And then my favorite part is also seasonal book flips. So basically I'm buying during the off season when kids are, not like, think about when people are buying textbooks. It's July, August before school starts. It's next January when the second semester of college starts. And then there's also like an April, May kind of textbook season. So there's kind of like 3 times during the year where you're able to get peak, just supply and demand. There's way more people looking to buy, prices get inflated, stock goes down. That is where you're able to make some insane money. And then a lot of people like to stay away from seasonal flips because it does kind of wrap up a little bit of cash flow, but great opportunity for me and my team. So quick downsides here. I don't want to go on too big of a rant here, but the downsides of the business is depending on the kind of books that you're buying, it could be a semi-seasonal business. So there's basically like 3 to 4 types of books to sell on Amazon. You've got all year round books, which obviously sell all year round. They don't really fluctuate too much in price. Then you've got the college and high school textbooks. So those two obviously are going to fluctuate much more in terms of interest, people looking to buy, price points, seller counts. You're going to see that roller coaster more often when you're on key. But then you've got some more stuff like winter books, like Christmas books. Obviously, a Christmas book is going to sell in November, December leading up. It's not going to sell in February or March, but that's obviously when you're going to want to buy. And so some people see the seasonal aspect as something they're not super interested in because traditional online arbitrage, you want to flip your capital quick. With books, depending on the kind of books you're purchasing, you might have typically some longer holding times, but the margin's beautiful. I'll tell you more about it as we go on. Also, one of the downsides, I couldn't think of a ton, but obviously, like I said earlier, we're buying a lot of 1, 2, 3 copies of like a specific book. Is you just have a lot of ASINs to manage. And so, for example, in October, we bought over 1,200 books. I wouldn't be surprised if we probably had 600 to 700 different ASINs. And so you can imagine your ASIN pool is gigantic. I think I've probably got over 3,000 to 3,500 individual ASINs in my seller account. And so it could definitely be a lot to manage, which is probably why a lot of sellers have difficulty scaling this operation. But of course, I have virtual assistants that make that much easier for me. And so finally, what can you expect to see from me going forward on social media? And to summarize this, the first thing is I'm going to be talking and continuing to talk about virtual assistant, whether that's content, tips, hiring. I still think regardless of the online business that you're in, not just Amazon, overseas virtual assistants can still be an absolute game changer. So I'll be talking a lot about VAs. Obviously, I run the VA Fastlane, so you'll be continuing to see VA content. And then, the second half of my journey, I just want to document my used book online arbitrage business. I'm sure if you've watched this through, something has piqued your interest, whether you're not super happy with your current Amazon results, or you're maybe looking to try out a different model. So I'll be doing my best to document my used book journey, the pros, the cons, the good, the bad, and hopefully be able to provide you as much value as possible. So if anything in this video related to you or piqued your interest and you want to learn more, give me a follow. I'll be breaking everything down a lot more in depth the next few weeks, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.